let us check out how we can figure out what operating system is our target running just by scanning it with Nmap. In Nmap, this feature is quite popular, as they have a database of thousands of known operating system fingerprints that they compare with the host that you scan in order to find out what operating system is it running. But for this to work, a target machine must have at least one port open and one port closed, which we need not to worry about since our Metasploitable has both open and closed ports. However, it could not work for some other targets. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to try to scan my Metasploitable, which is running Linux, and then I will try to scan my Windows 7 virtual machine that I got right here, and I will try to scan my Windows 10 host machine. And let us see what results can we get. Let's see whether Nmap can figure out what operating systems are they running. If I go back to my Kali Linux, and let's go with Metasploitable first. To run the operating system feature, we must use sudo, and after Nmap we specify -o for discovery of operating system. Then we specify the IP address, and if I specify the IP address of my Metasploitable first, press enter, type in my password. It will take just a few seconds, and down in the results we can see the OS testing. It tells us right here that Metasploitable is running Linux. And down here in the OS details, it tells us which version exactly is it running and how many hops is the target distance from us. It says 1, which means host is inside of our network. And besides all of this, it also tells us that the machine that we are scanning is a virtual machine, as we can see right here. It managed to figure this out by the MAC address that Metasploitable has, since VirtualBox machines have MAC addresses that start the same, and these are these three first numbers. This is really interesting because it can sometimes help us to realize that our target is an actual virtual machine and not a physical machine, which could possibly indicate that we're scanning a honeypot, which is usually a purposely vulnerable virtual environment that is used to lure in hackers in order to find out whether they're being attacked. This is because usually an attacker will go for the most vulnerable machine first, and that's how they catch him. That vulnerable machine could possibly be put there on purpose. So for our Metasploitable, we got the correct result. It tells us that it is running Linux, which is correct. Down here it even tells us which version of Linux is it running. And we can also see right here by the MAC address that this is a virtual machine. So we got a lot of useful results for Metasploitable. Let's try with my Windows 10 physical machine. So if I type sudo nmap -o, and to scan my physical machine, I must check the IP address inside of my command prompt. If I type ipconfig, it will tell me that my IP address is 192.168.1.7. Let us type it in, 192.168.1.7. And run this scan. It should also take just a few seconds. Once again, you can check at what percentage is it at by pressing the upper arrow key, and it is currently 81% done, so let's just wait for the remaining few seconds to finish. And it will tell me right here that it didn't manage to discover OS details. Now why is that? Well, because we can see right here all 1000 scanned ports are either closed or filtered. And remember, to discover an operating system, we need at least one open port and one closed port. In this case, there is really nothing that we can do to discover operating system with Nmap, since all ports seem to be filtered. Let's try the same of Windows 7 virtual machine. I know for a fact that the Windows 7 virtual machine has one port open, so let's see whether it will manage to figure out the operating system on that machine. If I type sudo nmap -o, and I already typed ipconfig in my Windows 7, the IP address is 192.168.1.14. Let's specify it right here. Let's wait for this to finish. And it gives us a bunch of OS details. Up here we have a warning that says, results may be unreliable because we could not find at least one open port and one closed port. It did manage to, however, find one open port, which is this port 445, but all the other ports are filtered. However, based on this one open port, it tried to guess what operating system it has, and it was relatively close. It managed to guess that the operating system is Windows, and sometimes this could be enough for us. We can see right here it specified Windows 7, which is correct, but it also specified Windows Vista and Windows 2008, which are incorrect guesses. So we can say that it managed to narrow it down for us, but it didn't really hit the correct one. So we checked how to figure out what operating system is the target running. We noticed that it doesn't always work, but this information, with the information which we will get in the next video, will be more than enough for us to be able to conduct a vulnerability analysis. Let us see in the next video how to get exact version of services running on open ports. Welcome back. Let us finally check out how we can figure out the version of software running on an open port. For now, we managed to discover open ports. We also learned what different scans do and which ones are better to use. And we learned how we can identify an operating system on some of the targets that we scan. Now, let's see one of the most important parts that will also help us in identifying vulnerabilities. So, why do we care about versions of software so much? For example, I might somehow find out that Metasploitable is running Apache web server on port 80. But that doesn't narrow all the possible attacks too much. Of course, it narrows it down to only search for Apache vulnerabilities, but Nmap can even go as far as discovering what exact version of Apache is it running. Then, after knowing the version, we can search that version on internet and try to see whether there are any known vulnerabilities for that specific version. So version discovery helps us a lot. And let's see how we can perform it. To perform version discovery, we use the option -sv. So I will run the command nmap -sv, and as usual, we're going to be scanning our Metasploitable. Now, this command also requires sudo privileges, so make sure to type it at the beginning of the command. Sudo nmap -sv and then the IP address. Press enter, enter the password. This particular scan could take longer than other scans, because right now we are deeply scanning the target. Let us check out at what percentage is it at. So 91%, it should finish in just a few seconds. Let's wait for it. And here it is. We can see we got a bunch of results right here. The new thing that we got from all the previous scans is this fourth column. Remember, once we scanned previously, we only got these first three columns, which are the port number, the state of the port, and the service that it is running. Right now, we also get the version of the service. So let's go quickly through this. We got port 21, which is FTP, and right here we got the exact version of what type of FTP software does it have. For the SSH, we get the same thing, so the version of SSH is OpenSSH 4.7, Debian Ubuntu. We got the Telnet, the SMTP, the HTTP, we got that it is running the Apache HTTP 2.2.8. For the SMB protocol, which is port 445 and 139, we got that it is running Samba from the 3 point something to 4 point something. In this range will be the version that it is running. What we would do with this information, as I already mentioned, is we would just try to search for some known vulnerabilities for the specified versions. For example, if this Apache version right here has a known vulnerability, we would discover it by pasting this in Google and typing vulnerabilities. And whatever comes up, we would test this on this target and see whether it works or not. Since some vulnerabilities could be patched. We never know, so we want to try it out. Down here we also got the versions for the other ports, so we get a bunch of results right here. What you would do with this scan, since this is really useful, we would type this on a report and we would use for the future references. For now, let me show you another option that you can use with the version scan. And that option is intensity of scanning versions. We can type it like this,
So if I use the same command, let me just clear the screen so we can see it better. If I use the same command and after -sv I type -- version -intensity, and after the version intensity we need to specify how high we want the intensity to be. And it can be set between 0 and 9. The default one, which we used in the last scan, is 7. So every time you don't specify this option, it will be 7 by default. If we set it all the way up to 9, then we will have higher possibility of identifying the correct service version. However, in 99% of Nmap scans, this option is not needed. You can just leave it on default, which is 7. If you set it at 9, it will take longer time, and since we're scanning a target that is on our own network, it will still do it in just a few seconds or minutes. But if you were to scan a real target, Nmap scans could take a lot more time to accomplish. So you always want to consider not only performing most accurate scan possible, but also performing a scan that will be equally fast and accurate. So sometimes we have to lose one thing in order to gain the other. That would be pretty much all for the version scanning. Now, we're not going to be running this command since I can tell you right now that it will give us the same output as the previous one. So in this case, increasing the version intensity won't help us too much. And as far as these options go, there are more options for the version discovery that you can check out inside of the Nmap manual. But before I end this video, I want to show you another thing that I also use a lot, and that is the -a option. So let me show you right here. If instead of all of this, I specify -a, and -a is so-called aggressive option. It enables some advanced features of Nmap. Those advanced features are, well, first it enables OS detection without specifying the -o that we already covered. It also enables the version detection without specifying the -sv, and it enables something called Nmap script scanning. What Nmap scripts are something that we will cover shortly. For now, just remember that -a enables all of those things that we covered in the previous videos, including Nmap scripts. And since -a is one of the more aggressive Nmap options, please do not try this on targets that you do not have permission to scan. However, let us test it out on our metasploitable target, and if you want, you can also try to scan your home network with it. Just keep in mind that since it is using all of these options, it will take some time, even if it is scanning our home network. So, if I run this command, this will take some time. If I press upper arrow, it is 78% done. And the output of this option we're going to see in the next video, as well as some other useful things that we can do with Nmap. As soon as we check that, we are going to get into firewall evasion using Nmap. See you there.